Ladies and gentlemen, we often hear that life is beautiful, but no one talks about the cracks, the mess, the pain, the nights you cry yourself to sleep, wondering if it's ever going to get better. Today, I want to tell you something you may not hear often. Your struggles are not a curse. They are your greatest gift. I know it doesn't feel like that when everything is falling apart, when people leave, when dreams shatter, when life takes a turn you never saw coming. I know it hurts. I know you feel tired. But I also know this. You are being shaped, not shattered. There was a time when I thought struggle meant weakness, that if I was broken, it meant I failed. But I've come to realize being broken is how the light gets in. You're not losing yourself, you're finding your true strength in the ruins. You don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to pretend you're okay, because it's in your honesty, in your vulnerability, that your real power begins to rise. The world needs more people who've walked through fire and are still standing, not because they were untouched, but because they chose to rise anyway. Don't hide your story, own it. Because someone out there is waiting to hear how you got through it. And they won't relate to your victories, they relate to your wounds. They'll connect with your courage to keep going when everything inside you wanted to stop. Strength isn't loud. It doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it's just getting up in the morning when everything inside you is breaking. So, if you're going through a hard time right now, let me tell you this. This moment is not your ending, it's your awakening. Stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? The pain, it's building your patience. The betrayal, it's building your boundaries. The loss, it's building your love for what truly matters. You don't become powerful in the absence of pain. You become powerful through it. You are not a victim of your life. You are a survivor of your storms. And one day you'll look back and realize that the very thing that threatened to break you became the reason you built unshakable strength. So walk with your head held high. Not because life has been easy, but because you've survived every hard day life threw your way. And you're still here, still breathing, still becoming. Remember this. The struggle you're facing today is the strength someone will thank you for tomorrow. Keep going. Your story isn't over yet. Pain, a word that we often fear, a feeling we try to escape, avoid, or numb. Yet, in the quiet corners of life, pain arrives uninvited, shifting the ground beneath our feet. It breaks our rhythm, it pauses our plans, and in that very moment of stillness and shattering, something begins, a transformation that could never start in comfort. Most people see pain as the end of something. The end of peace, the end of a dream, the end of control. But what if pain isn't the end? What if it's the beginning of a kind of power you never knew you had? There is something strange and beautiful about how life works. It doesn't reveal your strength in times of ease. It doesn't test your faith when everything is going your way. It waits. It waits for the moment when everything feels lost, when the people you counted on walk away, when your reflection in the mirror is someone you no longer recognize, when the silence becomes deafening. That's when pain enters, not as your enemy, but as your unexpected teacher. The truth is, pain has a way of stripping everything down to what is real. It doesn't lie to you. It doesn't flatter you. It introduces you to the version of yourself that you've never had to meet before. The one who can endure, the one who can bend without breaking, the one who can still find light even while surrounded by darkness. There are moments in life when you think, I can't take this is too much. And yet, somehow, you do. You take it, you carry it. And with each tear you wipe away, with each step you take forward while your heart is still aching, you build a quiet, unshakable strength inside of you. A strength that can't be taught in classrooms or earned through praise. A strength that is born only in the furnace of pain. You see, the moments that break us are the ones that make us. Not because breaking feels good, but because it reveals what we are made of. You learn what resilience really is, not in theory, but in experience. You learn that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the whisper that says, try again tomorrow. You learn that healing isn't linear, that some days you'll feel like you're back at square one, and yet you keep moving forward anyway. Struggles are not setbacks. They are setups for something greater, but you only begin to see that in hindsight. When you're in the middle of it, all you feel is the weight, the confusion, the grief. But one day you'll look back and realize that everything you're carrying today is preparing you for the version of yourself you're meant to become. Pain wakes you up. It shakes you out of autopilot. It forces you to pause and ask, who am I really when everything is stripped away? And when you answer that question honestly, you start to see that you are more than the roles you play, more than the things you've lost, more than the disappointments you've faced. You are still here, still standing, still becoming. There is a quiet power in simply enduring, in showing up when everything inside you says, stay down, in speaking kindly to yourself when the world has been cruel, in choosing hope even when the future feels unclear. That's not weakness, that's strength. And that strength is born not in the absence of pain, but through it. Some of the most powerful people you'll ever meet didn't have easy lives. They've cried themselves to sleep, they've been rejected, they've failed, but instead of letting that define them, they allowed it to refine them. They found purpose in their pain. They found clarity in their chaos. They learned to rise, not despite the breaking, but because of it. And you can too. Because pain doesn't just build power, it reveals it. So the next time life throws something at you that feels too heavy, remember this. It's not here to destroy you. It's here to awaken you, to sharpen you, to stretch your heart until it can hold more empathy, more compassion, more wisdom than it ever could before. You are being built, not broken. And maybe, just maybe, this pain you're walking through is the very beginning of the power that will change your life and someone else's forever. There is something profoundly powerful about a story. Not the fairy tales we read as children, but the real, raw, unfiltered kind. The stories that are etched into the lines on our faces, the cracks in our voices, the silent tears that have fallen behind closed doors. The kind of stories that were never told out loud because we thought they made us weak. But here's the truth. Those stories, the ones you are hiding, the ones you think no one would understand, those are your superpower. We live in a world obsessed with perfection. Polished smiles, curated photos, filtered lives, but underneath all that shine is something the world is desperate for. Something real, something true. And that truth lies in your story. Not the one you tell when people ask how you're doing and you respond with the rehearsed, I'm fine. I mean the real story, the story of who you are when everything falls apart, when you've lost, when you've failed, when you've questioned everything. That's where your power lives. Every scar you carry has something to say. Every one of them is proof that you fought a battle and survived. You may look at your life and see mistakes, mischances, moments you wish you could erase. But what if instead you saw those moments as building blocks? What if your past wasn't something to be ashamed of, but something to be proud of? What if your story isn't just worthy of being told, it's needed? Because someone, somewhere, is going through what you've already survived. And they're waiting for proof that healing is possible. They're not looking for perfection. They're not inspired by people who have never fallen. They are moved by people who've been broken and still chose to rise. They are drawn to those who can stand in their truth and say, yes, it was hard. Yes, I cried. Yes, I almost gave up. But I didn't. That honesty, that vulnerability, that's where the magic is. The world connects with your truth, not your perfection. Perfection is distant, untouchable, it intimidates. But your truth, that's human. That's what builds bridges. When you share your story, you give others permission to embrace their own. You give voice to the silence they've been living in. You remind them that they're not alone. And there is nothing more powerful than that. We are so quick to hide the parts of ourselves that hurt, the chapters we wish didn't exist. But you cannot inspire from a place of hiding. You cannot lead from a place of fear. The very thing you're afraid of sharing could be the light someone else needs to see. There is power in saying, this is what I've been through. And here I am, still standing. Your story doesn't need to be dramatic to matter. It doesn't have to be filled with tragedy or triumph. It just has to be yours. Honest, unfiltered, spoken from the heart. Whether it's a story of heartbreak, of starting over, of learning to love yourself, of letting go of something that once defined you, it's all sacred. It all matters because it shaped you, and what shaped you is what strengthens you. Your story is not a weakness. It is your armor. You're proof that even in the darkest chapters, you kept writing. That even when you lost your way, you found your voice. And that voice has power. Power to heal, power to inspire, power to create change, not just in your own life, but in the lives of those who hear you. So stop waiting for the perfect moment to speak. Stop waiting until everything is sorted, until you feel worthy enough to be heard. You are already enough. Your story is already enough. You don't need to edit your past to make it more presentable. You just need to speak it from a place of truth, because your strength is not in the mask you wear. It's in the layers you dare to peel back, the courage it takes to say, this is who I am and this is where I have been. That kind of honesty shakes people, it reaches hearts, and it transforms life. Your pain, your joy, your resilience, your lessons, they're all part of the story the world needs, and no one else can tell it but you. Never underestimate the power of your truth, because your story, exactly as it is your greatest superpower. We are often told to be strong, to fight, to push through, to never give up. And while there is courage in resistance, there is an even deeper, quieter kind of strength that lives in surrender. Not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of acceptance. The kind of surrender that says, I no longer need to control everything. I am willing to let life shape me. We grow up believing that strength looks like having it all together, like being unshakable in the face of chaos. But life has a way of teaching us that sometimes strength is letting go. It's when you stop clenching your fists, stop trying to force a different outcome, and start listening to what this moment is really asking of you. Surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It is the awareness that not everything must be fought and not every battle needs a warrior. Some moments simply ask for your trust. When life takes a turn you didn't ask for, when pain shows up at your doorstep and refuses to leave, it's instinctual to resist. To ask, why is this happening to me? To want to outrun the grief, the confusion, the disappointment. But what if, instead of resisting, you paused? What if you leaned in? What if, just for a moment, you allowed yourself to feel instead of fix, to listen instead of react? Something powerful happens when you stop fighting life and start flowing with it. You begin to hear things you couldn't hear when you were shouting over your own fear. You begin to see lessons you couldn't see when your eyes were fixed only on what you'd lost. In surrender, there is space. Space for reflection, space for healing, space for unexpected strength to rise quietly from within. Grace lives in surrender, and grace doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells you it's okay not to have all the answers. It tells you healing doesn't require perfection. It tells you that it's okay to be tired, to cry, to fall apart. Because in the falling apart, something new is being formed. Something softer but stronger, something deeper but calmer. There is a kind of resilience that doesn't come from pushing harder, it comes from softening, from learning to trust the process, even when you don't understand it, from believing that life is not punishing you, it's preparing you. And sometimes that preparation doesn't look like what you expected. Sometimes it looks like stillness, like silence, like surrender. You don't have to pretend that it's easy. You don't have to act like you're okay when you're not. Real strength is honest. It doesn't deny the struggle, it honors it. It looks it in the eye and says, I may not like this, but I will not let it harden me. I will not let it steal my softness, my faith, my light. So many people think surrender means giving up, but true surrender is the opposite. It's the decision to keep going, just differently. It's letting go of how you thought things should be and embracing them as they are. It's realizing that peace isn't found in control, it's found in trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in life. Trust that even in the chaos, there's meaning. Even in the hurt, there's growth. When you resist what is, you exhaust yourself. You tighten your grip, trying to bend life to your will. But life is not something to be bent. It is something to be experienced, to be felt, to be walked through with humility and heart. And the more you surrender, the more you begin to see nothing is happening to you, it's happening for you. There is a quiet miracle in reaching the point where you stop running from your story, where you sit with your pain and say, okay, I'm here, teach me. In that stillness, your soul finds its voice. Your purpose becomes clearer. Your strength becomes deeper, not because you avoided the pain, but because you allowed yourself to walk through it with grace. The most resilient people are not the ones who fought the hardest. They're the ones who learned how to let go when it was time. Who knew when to rest. Who didn't see surrender as giving up, but as giving in. To healing, to learning, to becoming more whole. There's something deeply freeing about not needing to have it all figured out. About saying, I don't know what's next, but I'm open, I'm willing, I trust. That openness becomes your power. That willingness becomes your path. And that trust, that's what keeps you soft when the world tells you to harden. That's what keeps you light when the days are heavy. So, if you find yourself in the middle of a storm, remember this. The strength you're searching for may not be in resisting the wind. It might just be in learning how to bend with it, how to breathe through it, how to surrender to it, and still remain unbroken inside. There is a kind of beauty that only comes from breaking. Not the polished kind, not the kind that shines under bright lights, but the kind of beauty that glows softly in the dark, the kind that whispers, I have been through something and I am still here. It's easy to admire strength when it's loud, when it's dressed in confidence and spoken in bold words. But the truest kind of strength is often quiet. It doesn't need to prove anything. It's not born from ease, it's born from pain. From the kind of hurt that changes you forever. From moments when you thought you wouldn't make it, but did. You do not rise despite your struggles, you rise because of them. It's in the falling, in the shattering, in the silence after the storm that something powerful awakens. Every time life knocks you down and you find the courage to get up again, a piece of you transforms. You become less afraid, less concerned with appearances, more in tune with your soul. You begin to realize that brokenness doesn't take your worth away. It reveals the bravery that was always buried deep within. We've been taught to hide our cracks, to stitch ourselves together in silence and smile through the pain. But what if we stopped seeing our broken pieces as something to be ashamed of? What if we wore them like armor, like evidence of the battles we've survived? Because every scar you carry is proof that something tried to break you and failed. Real bravery doesn't mean you never fall. It means you fall, you hurt, you break, and still you choose to rise again and again. Even when it's slow, even when it's messy, even when it doesn't look strong from the outside. Bravery is not about how quickly you heal. It's about how deeply you keep showing up for yourself while you do. There are moments in life when you feel like everything is crumbling. Dreams collapse. People leave. Plans dissolve. And in that space, where nothing looks familiar, you feel lost. It's in that space that bravery begins to grow. Because now it's not about holding on, it's about rebuilding. And that requires something far more powerful than perfection. It requires honesty, vulnerability, faith. You begin to understand that falling isn't failure, it's part of becoming. That being broken isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of a deeper one. A story where your bravery doesn't come from always knowing what to do, but from trusting yourself even when you don't. Bravery looks different in everyone. For some, it's getting out of bed when the weight of sadness says stay. For others, it's telling the truth when silence would be easier. Sometimes it's walking away from what's familiar to choose what's right. And sometimes it's simply choosing to keep living when everything inside you feels numb. You don't have to wait until you feel strong to be brave. Bravery is the decision to keep going when you feel anything but strong. It's saying, this hurts, this is hard, but I will not give up on myself. That kind of inner voice, that is the voice that rises from brokenness. It wasn't there before. It was born in the fire, molded by the tears, strengthened in the silence. So many people believe that bravery looks like standing tall all the time. But the most courageous souls are often the ones who've had to crawl, who've had to whisper encouragement to themselves in the middle of the night, who've broken down in bathrooms, held their breath in crowds, and still walked forward with trembling steps. That's what rising looks like. Not pretty, not perfect, but real. With every fall, you are learning something. You are being stretched, not shattered. You are being prepared, not punished. Life may break your heart, but it will also teach you how to hold it with gentler hands. It may humble you, but it will also show you what truly matters. It may knock you down, but only so you can rise stronger than before. Bravery is not reserved for heroes and stories. It lives inside you, in your smallest victories, in your quiet decisions, in your willingness to believe despite the evidence that better days are possible. And you wouldn't know that kind of bravery if you hadn't first been broken. If life hadn't first brought you to your knees, made you question everything, and then slowly, gently invited you to rise again. So when you look at your broken pieces, don't turn away, don't hide them, see them for what they are. Reminders that you have lived, you have hurt, and you have healed. Not perfectly, not all at once, but bravely. You are not broken beyond repair. You are rising into someone braver than ever before.